Your credit report contains years of information about your credit history, information used to create the credit score that impacts the interest rates you pay on car loans and mortgages.
There is an excellent chance your credit report contains a mistake serious enough to cause you to be denied credit. Art Holliday reports live from Clearpoint Credit Counseling.
Well, Mike and Lisa, checking your credit report is kind of like scheduling an oil change or a physical exam. We all know it's the smart thing to do, but a lot of times we don't make it a priority, and that can be a huge mistake.
There are ways to correct those mistakes, but there's not really anything we could do to prevent those mistakes.
Anissa Sharif is a debt analyst for Personal Credit Solution in Baldwin. She says be prepared for mistakes on credit reports. Accounts that don't belong to you, outdated information, even mistaken identity.
If you have a common name, like Joe Brown, you know how many Joe Browns are out there. So in that sense, you really can't prevent some of that stuff, but you can easily prove it to them, and they'll make sure they fix it.
A few years back, one of my credit reports listed me as deceased. The report was wrong. A 2004 study by the U.S. Public Interest Research Groups found 79% of consumer credit reports contain errors. But a 2011 study paid for by the Consumer Data Industry Association found errors in only 19% of credit reports. The numbers vary greatly, but consumer advocates point out that even relatively low error rates can affect millions of consumers.
I used to sell new homes and ran into that quite frequently, though, where a lot of customers would run their report and they would have hundreds of thousands of dollars against them unknowingly because they hadn't checked it in 5, 6, 7 years.
Sharif's advice, check your credit report several times a year, and when you find a mistake, get to work to correct the error.
If you dispute something, sometimes they reject the dispute, but just keep at it, find different techniques, maybe calling the creditor and saying, hey, I'm sure I made this payment. If you show them proof, just work hard at it. But yeah, there are times, you really don't get your way.
Turns out what you don't know can hurt you when it comes to credit. Today on News Channel 5, we're making a big push to help you with your financial health. We start with the numbers that can affect whether you get a loan or even a job. As News Channel 5's Art Holliday reports, when it comes to the money game, many people don't know their own score.
Bill, do you know your credit score?
I have an approximate idea of what the score is.
As far as a credit score, I don't even know my credit score.
When it comes to credit scores, what you don't know can cost you. Want to buy a home or a car? Unless you pay cash, you'll need to borrow the money. And people with low credit scores can pay 2 to 3 times more in interest than people with strong credit scores.
If you really want to get a good loan, you really should fix your credit and look at taking care of it before going to a loan officer, because that will impact your interest rate.
Right there. He's the reason I'm getting robbed on my interest rate.
Everybody has 3 credit scores, but just one bad score can ruin everything.
Another reason to get rid of a bad credit score? More employers are pulling credit reports to see how responsible you are. A low score could cause you to miss out on getting hired or promoted.
I don't believe you should really judge the employee based on that, especially with today's economy. There are a lot of factors that, that potential employee cannot control.
Credit scores are one of those things everyone has heard of but few understand. For example, a survey last year by the Consumer Federation of America showed many borrowers knew very little about them. All day, News Channel 5's Art Holliday has been reporting on credit scores, and tonight we wrap up our coverage with credit report myths.
How much do you know about credit reports and credit scores? These are some of the common myths. Myth number 1. Credit scores change once a year.
No, of course that's a myth. Your credit score changes pretty much between 30 to 60 days, pretty much updated. So if you miss a payment for 30 days, you'll see it.
Myth number 2. The better your annual salary, the better your credit score.
Let's say someone's making $100,000 and they're $1 million in debt, and there's someone that's making $20,000 but they're $1,000 in debt. Who do you think overall would have a better score?
Myth number 3. I don't need to check my credit report because I pay my bills on time.
Someone else is utilizing your credit. You don't know. But if you're making your payments all the time, you might believe so, but sometimes your creditors might have mistakenly show that you made a late payment when you didn't.
Myth number 4. If you file for bankruptcy, your credit score is permanently ruined.
yes, you have that bankruptcy on there, which will affect it, but it's not for the long run. You know, you could typically buy a house in a few years and build new lines of credit, which is great with bankruptcy.
Myth number 5, it's easy to fix errors on your credit report.
It's not easy. It takes work, but it's an investment. The hours you put into trying to take these marks off that you believe are not correct, you know, it is an investment in the long run.
Now on KSDK.com, we have assembled several stories we did today on credit and managing debt. There are also a number of links for information about getting a free credit report, improving your credit score, and correcting mistakes on your credit report.